wrong, it is immoral, it is unnecessary that anyone should be sleeping on the streets of Britain.
It wasn't meant to be like this. One man was, in order to widen out the Labour leadership debate, helped onto the ballot. Now he's dominated that debate. Private Labour polls leaked to the New Statesman magazine this week suggest Jeremy Corbyn's more of a serious contender than anybody ever imagined. This is Jeremy Corbyn's manor. It's the constituency of Islington North. For many people who crave authenticity, Jeremy Corbyn is the real deal. This place may look affluent and leafy, but there's a lot of urban poverty, and he has been, over years, a tireless campaigner for those people. But for others in the Labour Party, he is terrifyingly left-wing. One former cabinet minister told me today, antediluvian doesn't begin to cover it when you get to Jeremy Corbyn. Another said if he took over, it would be the party led by Karl Marx. One senior figure said to me that if Jeremy Corbyn took over, they'd leave the party, and they think they speak for many.
I think a group of people feel that Jeremy Corbyn's election is a reason for them to leave the Labour Party. What were they doing in the Labour Party in the first place? This is a party that represents ordinary people, working class and middle class people. It's in favour of the redistribution of wealth, it's in favour of public services. And I do think an awful lot of people who really weren't terribly Labour did sort of scaddle in and slip into nice safe seats with the backing of the machine. And if they want to go, let them go. I know a lot of people say, oh, Ed Miliband was too left-wing, but he made far too many concessions to the old Blairites, and we went into that election promising a sort of austerity light. We got wiped out in Scotland because the SNP stood up against austerity. All over the north we lost working class votes to UKIP because they said, what did Labour ever do for us? We've got to show people we can create good jobs for ordinary people, build homes their kids can live in. That's Jeremy's strategy. That can win us the next election.
We're not far from Jeremy Corbyn's constituency, and we have found for you the site of the famous, politically, Granita restaurant. This is where Tony Blair and Gordon Brown forged their new Labour project. Now, some years on, it's not clear that that project is surviving particularly well. What appears to have happened is that under the Ed Miliband leadership, many left-wing activists rejoined the Labour Party. Right now, it isn't clear that those people have necessarily got their left-wing leader. This contest has some weeks to run, but already they have shifted the contest to the left, and many at the top of the party are worried.
There are no free hits in this leadership election. It's not just about who wins, it's the shakedown of the results. I've got nothing against Jeremy personally, but what I have got a problem with are his positioning and politics. I don't believe that is a politics that can win. I think actually if you are Conservative, what kind of politics would you most want to win in this leadership election? It would be the politics that people associate with Jeremy. Weak on defence at a time when global insecurity is rising, more generous social security payments for people who can work but refuse to work, and mismanagement of our economic finances. That is not going to be able to get us elected. And I tell you what, there is no glory in opposition and betrayal in government. Ultimately, we betray our people if we don't get elected.
Do you think it's a possibility Corbyn does well?
Well, I think ultimately that is for members to decide and supporters of our party to decide. But ultimately, look, we were sent a very strong message by the electorate at this general election, and we are behaving like a petulant child who has been told you can't have the sweeties in the sweet shop, you can't have power, and now we're running around stamping our feet, screaming at the electorate. When ultimately what we need to do is meet people where they are at, not where we would necessarily want them to be. That does not involve simply saying the Tories were right. And we've got to think, what are the traps that the Conservatives are setting for us? And do we just walk into them, or do we actually box clever and smart so that we can get back into government and build that socially just, more equal society that we all want?
But why is the latecomer to this contest showing signs of running away with it?
What an entrance.
Labour insiders think it's not so much that he's triumphed, but that others have failed. That the other candidates have said very little that's distinctive, creating a large vacuum and the space for Jeremy Corbyn's campaign, with what even his critics say is a sharp and simple one. People are lapping it up.
Thanks very much. Sorry to kept you waiting at the start. I was struggling with trains and journeys, but we made it in the end, and I think the railway should be publicly owned.
Perhaps this polling has been leaked as a scare tactic from one of Jeremy Corbyn's rivals, to focus minds, a bit like the effect of YouGov's shock poll on the eve of the Scottish referendum. But, whether real numbers or not, this Labour leadership debate might finally have got going.